Hello and welcome to another episode of the Easy Relaxation Podcast. In this week's episode, our practice is going to revolve around focusing on an object. And this builds on the sort of practice that we've been doing in previous episodes. So the first thing that I need you to think about is choosing an object to focus. So we're going to use a physical object to do this rather than necessarily an object in our mind, although you can do this by using purely a mental object. But just when you're starting out, it's always slightly easier to use some sort of physical object. So I just need you to pick something that you're going to use for your focus. Myself, I have various crystals and stones that are either natural or have some sort of geometric shape or might be spherical that I use for focusing my attention during certain meditation practice. But you could use something else, even something like an empty vase or a cup or some other fairly simple object that you can focus on. So once you've located that object, and by all means stop this episode whilst you try and find your object to focus on. But once you've found that, place it in front of you at a reasonable distance that you know you're going to be able to focus on it without too much strain to your eyes. Also in a position where you're not putting any strain on your neck by looking down too much or looking up too much. So that's the object sorted out. So now, and I'm assuming of course that for this session you're going to give your full attention to the session. You're not attempting to do this whilst you're doing anything else. But for this, you do need to be seated. If you're using a physical object, again, if you are familiar with this sort of meditation and you're doing this purely mentally, then you can do it lying down. But with a physical object, this is best done seated. So I want you to get comfortable as we have done in previous weeks. And just get in a position seated that is most comfortable for you. And if you haven't done already, just make sure that that object is placed in the appropriate location so you can focus on it. But first of all, what I'd like you to do, now you're in your comfortable position, is to just gently close your eyes and just feel your presence in the room. The way I do this is I just notice how the sensation of me sitting on whatever I'm sitting, how that feels. And I find that starts to ground me nicely for the meditation, for the focusing. And just what you want to do is just gently let go into that feeling of just till you feel nicely present in the moment. So now I just need you to open your eyes, and if you're already getting thoughts starting to arise, just gently let them go and bring your attention onto the object. Just gently focus on the object. If you start to have any thoughts about that object beyond the experience of looking at the object, just let them go. Also notice if you start to notice any feelings maybe arising that you have about that object. Again, let those go. Maybe you're starting to think about certain qualities in the object. You also need to let go of those as well and get back to the pure noticing, the pure focus on the object. Seeing it simply as something that is out there in space. It's okay to take in its shape, the light and how that falls on the object, and any shadows or subtle alterations in shape from when you've maybe seen it up close every day to when it's seated at a certain position and place in front of you. But again, you're just noticing those colours, those contours, those angles, and those textures as a phenomenon, and not as some thought about the nature of the object itself. So again, it's the experience of the object rather than anything you know about the object. It's that idea as well of viewing the object with a beginner's mind, as though you've seen it for the very first time. Now, it's important when you're doing this for long periods of time to understand that the focus involves you keeping your focus on the object steady and not scanning necessarily around the object or trying to alter your focus on the object. You're trying to maintain a consistent observing of that object by gazing steadily at it without scanning and without moving to another object. So we're going to continue our focusing on the object. for the next couple of minutes, and I will just gently remind you during that time to bring your focus back on the object. So just focus steadily on the object. Just keep your focus steady and just let go of any distractions, either of sight, sound or sensation going on around you, and just stay focused on your object. Gently bring your attention back on the focus of the object. So at this point we're going to stop the focusing and gently bring our attention back on the room. As you get more skilled in doing this, you can simply extend the focusing for as long as you want. And then once you've brought your attention fully back into the room, you can gently get up. Thanks for listening to this episode. Have a great rest of the day, and bye for now.